Mr. Speaker, Newfoundland and Labrador relies heavily on the tourism industry. In fact, it's one of the biggest employers in rural Newfoundland since the collapse of the fishery. But even this industry has a massive trade barrier, the Marine Atlantic Ferry. This ferry acts as a bottleneck, holding back growth despite demand. Bill C-5 talks about nation-building projects, yet our current infrastructure and transportation system needs immediate attention. During tourism season, these vessels are fully booked, with no room for tourist vehicles and RVs. Although most hotels, resorts, and restaurants have more capacity, tourists are not able to get across the Gulf into Newfoundland. Our tourism industry has grown tremendously in the last decade, yet marine Atlantic services have hardly grown. Hotel rooms and historical tours go unused because there's no ferry space available to bring travelers in. During this last campaign, when the Liberals knew that they were going to lose more seats like mine, they made last-minute election promise to reduce the ferry rates. Now, we can all agree that passenger rates should be free, but these Liberals promised to reduce rates before Canada Day. Yet, we're only 2 weeks away, and the prices still haven't changed. People are booking ferry rides now for July and August, but what will happen? Will they get reimbursed? People are unknown of what's going to happen. So what will happen? This uncertainty undermines planning for families and is creating uncertainty in our tourism industry. If this government wants to reduce trade barriers, they need to take a good look at how the island of Newfoundland does trade. 50% of our province's cargo shipments are through private cargo companies, yet only Marine Atlantic cargo is subsidized. How can private industry compete and when shipping costs are so high? If this government wants to continue its freeze on transport trucks, will this create even more demand on Marine Atlantic services, eliminating even more possible ventures for passenger opportunity and tourist opportunity? Why doesn't this Liberal government make up its mind and either subsidize all cargo shipping into the province or none of it? Perhaps that would shift the cargo market, resulting in less transport trucks on our ferries, allowing for more passengers and more tourists to boost our economy, which will reduce the inter-provincial trade barriers on our tourism industry. And speaking of ferries, I see in the national news that the province of British Columbia has awarded their ferry construction contracts to Chinese companies to be built in China, a country where we are currently having a trade war with. This decision undermines Canada's industrial backbone. This Prime Minister says he's elbows up for Canada, and he brags about allegedly successful meetings with premiers across the country. Yet he can't seem to convince BC to build these ferries here in Canada. Talk without action means loss of jobs for our country that may soon have a stockpile of unused steel and skyrocketing unemployment. I'm curious to know how many other boat-building jobs will be going overseas. BC alone says that they're expected to create 18 new ferries in the next 15 years. Where will these boats be built? Will these be powerful paychecks retreat overseas? I understand that this Liberal government has all their consultants busy as a Bay Street banker rewriting the rules of capitalism before breakfast, but perhaps Transport Canada Minister and his team could investigate this fiasco to determine what needs to be done for these boats to be built here in Canada. In my district alone, I have 2 shipyards and 2 fabrication sites sitting idle. Perhaps this Liberal government could work with private industry to make real investment here in Atlantic Canada to conduct minor upgrades to build these ferries, future ferries, and other Canadian ships. These idle sites represent ready-for-business infrastructure and workforce. Mr. Speaker, being an island and a landmass on the most easterly part of the country holds other connection difficulties as well. Newfoundland and Labrador is one of the largest providers of hydroelectricity in the country, with potential to have massive expansion. Yet, we struggle to get our power to market. Will this government use C5 to remove the inter-provincial trade barriers on our green energy by ensuring that their proposed energy corridor will be connected to our province, that we can sell our electricity at fair market value without the extortion of other provinces? Removing these barriers would boost both our Newfoundland economy and national energy needs will be met. Considering this government just hired Hydro-Quebec's Michael Sabia, Myself and every other Newfoundlander and Labradorian has major doubts that this energy corridor will allow a Labrador electricity to market without other provinces taking the icing off the top. We want someone from that side of the government in this House to take a stand and ensure us that this energy corridor will remove all provincial barriers and gatekeepers so that Newfoundland and Labrador can get our energy to market without having to give away our lunch money. A commitment to clarity, timelines, fair play conditions so that all provincial governments and private energy investors can prepare for this enormous opportunity. Now let's get down to the core of this bill, known as C5. The biggest component of this bill is to allow the Liberal government to select a few projects that they deem as nation-building projects. They deem as nation-building projects. What's interesting about this is even the Liberals now understand that their anti-building laws, anti-mining laws, and anti-energy laws are too much for private industry to navigate on their own. So they created so much red tape that they now need this new bill to roll out the red carpet for their VIP selected projects. Now, perhaps my colleagues will be filled with the highest level of integrity and would never plan to violate any ethical policies or choose companies that benefits them. But I can assure you, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And by giving themselves a power to make or break any project in Canada with a slight stroke of a pen is only a matter of time before we see more shameful stories like GC Strategies, who was given nearly $100 million taxpayer dollars in contracts to do nothing. Or the Green Slush Fund, where for 6 years, Sustainable Development Technology Canada approved approximately $900 million taxpayer dollars in funding that was inappropriately directed to projects that violated guidelines, often given to companies that they or their friends owned. We must learn from the past. Those warnings cannot be ignored. Furthermore, if this Liberal government realizes that a handful of supposedly nation-building projects will help our economy, why can't they understand that hundreds of these projects across our nation would put this country back on track where it needs to be and take care of our seniors, pave our roads, and fix our health care? But we wouldn't even need a C5 if this government repealed C69 that blocks pipelines projects throughout this country. We wouldn't need C5 if they repeal 48 that cripples our offshore industry. We wouldn't need C5 if they never implemented the production and emission caps that is choking our economy. We wouldn't need C5 if we never had 10 years of the lost Liberal decade, because we would have had one of the strongest economies in the world. We have everything in this country to succeed except for good leadership. Now, Mr. Speaker, I grew up in a Canada where an average kid from Clarenville could have endless possibility. He could run for student council and one day be the MP. Or he could start pumping gas and dream of one day owning that gas station and build an oil tycoon, just like old man Irving. But C5 will kill this dream, and many more just like it. C5 tells young Canadians that if you want to build something, you've got to be pals with the friends at the top. A perfect fantasy for Canadian oligarchs. That's not the Canadian dream. That's a nightmare of privilege. It replaces merit with connection, potential with politics, and small-town hope with big-city gatekeeping. We need a Canada where every company has equal opportunity, every person has equal opportunity, and we need a smaller government to make way for bigger citizens. Thank you very much.
Questions and comments? Question et commentaire. L'honorable député de Nipissing.
The honourable member for Nipissing-Temiskaming.
And I must say I am a new member to this House, and I was very impressed this morning with the vote and the support in the House for our bill. To me, it speaks about action, and action is so important, and I think certainly that is what Canadians are looking for. And I was impressed with my colleague, his comments, and I have been following as well at a distance the matter of tolls on ferries, and I appreciate his frustration. But certainly I understand that some of the reasons behind the difficulty in resolving some of these matters is due to the fact that there are many ferry companies that are involved, and there's some complexities involved. So I was wondering if my colleague could comment on how he might play a role more locally in his riding in resolving this matter.
The honourable member for Terra Nova, the Peninsulas.
We have one transport company from the mainland Canada to Newfoundland and Labrador for passengers, and it's Marine Atlantic. We do have cargo ships and other companies as well, but we have one for passengers and tourists, and that's the one I'm speaking of today. There's a lot of things we can do locally, but Marine Atlantic is a national Crown corporation, and it starts right here in this House. Thank you very much.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-l'Île. Thank you, and congratulations to my colleague for his speech. You know, for a number of weeks now, we've heard the Conservatives criticize the Liberals about ArriveCan and about GC strategies and questioning their sense of ethics. And here now we have before us a bill which is going to give superpowers to the Liberals. It will allow them to avoid applying certain laws to projects put in place by their friends, by promoters. Section 21 is going to allow them to exclude promoters of projects from ethics laws, from labor laws, etc. So I'm wondering why, in this context, the Conservatives have supported the Liberal closure motion to allow the Liberals to move this bill through quickly without it being studied properly and without members being able to improve this bill.
The Honourable Member for Terranova, the Peninsulas.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. Us Conservatives have knocked the door of Canadians. We understand that the cost of living, they are really, really worried if they're going to make the next rent. We understand that some projects in this country is better than no projects, and we have stated over and over, these are baby steps in the right direction. But we need to repeal 69, repeal 48, and unleash Canada's potential so that we can improve this country and give the citizens at home a better quality of life.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague from Terranova, the Peninsulas, for a very inspiring speech. He mentioned the importance of ferries. Now, his riding and mine are at opposite ends of the country, but they have this in common. We're coastal provinces, where ferries for passengers and traffic is very important. Yet, in British Columbia, we're not even building our own ferries. I wonder if a member could comment on that. The importance for one strong Canadian economy to be able to at least build our own ships.
The Honourable Member for Terranova, the Peninsulas.
I absolutely agree with my colleague. We are in a crisis right now. We're in a tariff war with multiple countries across the world, and we may have a whole stockpile of unused steel. And this is a great opportunity to put our workforce to work, whether it be built in BC or built in Newfoundland or built anywhere in Canada. It's a great opportunity, but yet it doesn't seem like this government is interested in seizing that opportunity and creating work here at home.
We have time for a very brief question. The Honourable Member for Nunavut, about 20 seconds.
And I congratulate the member on his election. I wonder if he's heard from Nunavut government in his province whether they've shared their concerns with C5 and how it would infringe on their rights. The
Honourable Member for Terranova, the Peninsulas, about 20 seconds.
I haven't heard directly about C5, but throughout the whole campaign, when you talk to Aboriginal people in our province, everyone has the same concern. They want to be consulted before things go through. They do not want the federal government to have a veto card that pushes through anything. Thank you very much.